Cookouts are bringing people together this Memorial Day weekend, but they're more costly now than ever. Record high beef prices are challenging both consumers and producers. Parker Brown has more in our top story tonight.
The national average cost of ground beef per pound reached $6.90, nearly $1 more than what it cost just last year. Beef cattle producers have continued to recover from tough years with droughts and lower cattle supply, which can drive up prices. Dry conditions also can lead to ranchers selling off livestock early.
You know, it's tough when you have when you have drought. These ranchers are very good stewards of the land, and they're not gonna overstock their pastures because it hurts you in consequential years.
The American Farm Bureau Federation says prices remain high because on top of the smallest cattle herd in 75 years, the demand for beef products continues to rise. Iowa Farmers Union Executive Director and cattle farmer Matt Russell says there are other factors at play too.
More complicated than just an analysis of what consumers are paying and what farmers are receiving, because it's those middle, the middle companies that are really in charge. They're driving what farmers can get paid, and they're driving what the consumers are paying.
Producers are trying to turn things around. There are still some factors out of their control, but they see a light at the end of the tunnel.
I think we will definitely turn the corner on this. I just think it's going to take time and better weather, quite frankly. I really do believe that producers are hearing the signals, and if they can, they're going to retain more females, and that's in turn.
In Sioux Falls, Parker Brown, Dakota News Now.